Gwyn ap Nudd, guardian of the Annwfn, the Brythonic underworld and the king of the Tylwyth Teg, the Welsh faeries, has long captured the imagination of poets and artists, from the ancient bardic tradition to modern-day fantasy writers. An ancient god of the Britons, he has nonetheless survived the Christian period as a figure of both fear and longing, as a keeper of demons when the pagan Annwfn was transformed in the popular imagination into the Christian hell, and as a figure of romance and fairy glamour. A courtly ruler within his glass castle, a handsome fairy lover with his many courts within the hollow hills and barrow mounds of Wales and Western England. A horned warrior god, antler crown, fierce spirit of the wild and winter king. The Brenin Nudd, the grey king in the mist, aloof and unknowable. Accompanied by his fairy hounds, the Cŵn Annwfn, he leads the dead to the realms beyond as lord of the wild hunt, soaring over the wild Welsh hills on fairy rides, with storm clouds in his wake. And as guardian of the Annwfn, he facilitates our transformation after death as we return once more to the great cauldron within the land. As fairy lord of the forest, he is found in the wild places and on the hills and mountains, cloaking them with mist, tempting lovers and inspiring bards and visionaries who to this day will seek out solitary retreat in such places to undergo his initiations of spirits to return dead, mad, or a poet. The name Gwyn is traditionally translated as white, fair, holy, or blessed. Throughout the Celtic traditions, we see the motif of something intrinsically good or spiritually enlightened being connected to the color white, or literally emitting light or shining in some way. We could see this as describing someone as illuminated or radiant with some inner divine light or wisdom. This can be seen with the old Irish gods, the Tylwyth Teg, often called the Shining Ones, and their later forms as being of fairy or the Sidhe are also described as luminescent in some way, implying a state of blessedness radiating the light within the land. Gwyn's Irish counterpart is Fionn Mac Cumhail, who also means fair, and who was spiritually illuminated by the imbus, which equates with the Welsh Awen, poetic or ocular inspiration, and given magical powers of divination after consuming the salmon of knowledge. The Welsh Gwyn can be translated directly as Fionn in Gaelic, Find in Old Irish, and Vindur in Gaulish, and has its roots in the Proto-Indo-European weird, to see, to know. It shares this linguistic root with the word druid, who has the knowledge or the vision of the dru, the oak. Weird is also the root of our English word wisdom. The roots of Gwyn and Fionn lie in the early Celtic god Vindonus, usually taken to mean white or clear light. Vindonus is usually taken to be a ghoulish aspect of the god Apollo, worshipped most notably in Burgundy, eastern France, where a healing spirit was dedicated to him. Apollo was both a Greek and a Roman god, and one with a complex set of attributes covering healing, prophecy, and the poetic arts and music, as well as the sun and the light. His worship was widespread, and he was particularly associated with oracles, his most famous being at Delphi. Apollo was usually considered to be the classical Romano version of the Celtic god Belenus, fair, shining one, who is associated like Apollo with the sun, but also with fire, as patron god of the Celtic festival every May 1st, Beltane, the bright fire. Some scholars cast doubt on Belenus's and Apollo's roles as sun gods, as their roles separate over time from purely solar functions, but as the overseer of Beltane. Belenus is not only a solar god, but one who oversees a rise in life force and fertility. His bright fire has as much to do with healing. Traditionally, The fires were used as much to banish illness as they were to celebrate a rise in fertility and fertility generally, and the light that he brings may equally be an inner illumination or surge in well-being. Academics consider Belinus Vindonus to be especially concerned with healing eyes, as many offerings found at his spring represented eyes, but the white or clear light he embodies could also be his inner illumination or inner vision, clear sight metaphorically as well as literally. Ap, or its earlier form map, literally means son or son of and is cognate with the Scots Gaelic mac. Neath means mist in Welsh, but is also another name for a legendary Welsh hero, Rhych or Neath of the Silver Hand. Neath was mentioned in the Welsh triads as one of the 3 most generous men in Wales. However, his name also connects him to the Irish divine king Nuada, or Nuada Aglador, Nuada of the Silver Hand. Many early Welsh genealogies treat Neath as a historical figure, but he is most likely derived from the early British god Nodens, whose worship appears to have similarities or is the Brythonic equivalent of Nuada. His temple near Lydney, Gloucestershire, suggests he was a god of healing and dream incubation, with connections to hunting and the sea. Those in need of healing or advice would make prayers and offer gifts to the god before sleeping in special cubicles in the temple, in the hope of an oracular healing dream. We can imagine Neath/Nuada then to be a god of mist and cloud, but it seems unlikely that this is merely a god of misty or cloudy weather. Mist and fog are powerful symbols of transition and liminality in much Celtic literature, the legendary mist surrounding the Isle of Avalon being a prime example. To embark on any spiritual or healing journey, we must encounter these liminal spaces, where the solid earth seems to melt and become indistinct, where our senses, our vision and direction may be clouded and confused for a while, where we must step forward bravely, trusting in our destination and our inner navigation to guide us. When we consider Nodens, this idea of liminality gains more traction in relation to healing dreams and sleep, where some sort of journey into the other or inner worlds takes place. We get the sense that this is someone to do with a healing inner journey, changes of consciousness and seeking vision, wisdom and renewal, the Awen, which may then be carried up into the everyday, waking world. The name Nodens may come from several places, all of which are illuminating in connection with this discussion. The most popular root for the word amongst academics is probably the Celtic stem nuadont or nuadent, meaning to acquire or to have use of, and earlier to catch or trap, as a hunter or fisherman from the Proto-Indo-European neddu, meaning to acquire or fish. At Lydney there were several statues of hunting dogs, which are traditionally connected with healing, but also to the gods of the hunt and the forest. There were also other artifacts such as bronze reliefs depicting a sea deity, fishermen and tritons. Perhaps it was believed that a healing sleep was a way to hunt a cure from across the waters of consciousness, or to fish one up from the depths of the underworld. Another suggestion has been that the name Nodens comes from the Proto-Celtic snodo or snodo, meaning mist or clouds, the SN being changed to N in the P-Celtic languages of Gaulish and Brythonic. This idea hints at a problem that the fact that the SN still occurs in the Old Irish, which would therefore make it snoda rather than nuada. However, language is always a fluid thing over such large spans of time, so there is still some potential for this argument, and it is entirely possible that the names Neath, Nuada and Nodens developed from a combination of these roots. Neath, Nuada, Nodens might then be understood as some kind of hunter deity, a trapper of prey even, in the mist. We know him from his tales and his temples that he was a deity the sick or troubled came to for help. Therefore we know he is a beneficent god, so a guide or ally perhaps in uncertain realms, in search perhaps of Gwyn, the illumination, the blessing, the inner radiance of the soul and healing remedy. Gwyn ap Nudd then stands at the threshold between worlds, a liminal figure who embodies both fear and blessing, wilderness and wisdom, death and illumination. His lineage stretches back through mist and myth to the healing gods of the Celts, to hunters, seers, and shining lords of fire and light. Yet he remains rooted in the Welsh hills and forests, cloaked in grey cloud, riding with his spectral hounds. To encounter Gwyn is to step into the mist yourself, to risk losing your way in order to discover something deeper, the spark of the Awen, the radiant wisdom that lies hidden in the Otherworld. Perhaps that is why he endures, as guardian, guide, and initiator, a reminder that even in the darkest wilds, there is always a light to be sought, if we have the courage to walk into the fog. If you want to learn more about Gwyn ap Nudd, then please take a look at our books, Pagan Portal's Gwyn ap Nudd by Danu Forrest, who also provided the words for this video, with a close look at traditional magic and lore as well as practical exercises. Gwyn ap Nudd is an essential guide for all those who seek the wisdom from the darkness and wild communion with the sovereignty of the land. It's available from Moonbooks Publishing. Thank you so much for watching. A special thank you to our members. You too can become a member and gain early access to videos just like this one. Hit the join button for more information. Subscribe for weekly videos, ring the bell for notifications, and we will see you next time.